true.
It's very good.
Hi, and welcome to European Cinema on the Edge, a collaboration between DW, The Hollywood Reporter, and the European Film Academy. I'm Scott Roxborough, your host, and I'm joined here in the studio by four of the nominated directors for the European Film Award. They're also all Oscar contenders, and more importantly, their work reflects the breadth, the ambition, and the urgency of contemporary European cinema. Joining me here are Joachim Trier, the director of Sentimental Value, Grand Prix winner in Cannes, and the Oscar contender for Norway.
Yeah.
A quietly devastating family drama about a filmmaker who tries to connect to his estranged daughters the only way that he knows how, through movies. It's a story of love, memory, and cinema. Oliver Laxe, director of the French-Spanish film Sirat, which won the Jury Prize in Cannes and is Spain's Oscar candidate. It's a surreal, spiritual road movie that begins with a rave in the Moroccan desert before taking a sharp turn into more dystopian territory, heading out into lands and states of mind unknown. Mascha Schilinski, director of Sound of Falling, also a Jury Prize winner in Cannes and Germany's hope for the Oscars. A German period drama that follows 4 generations of women across a century of German history, all living on the same rural farm. It's an intimate epic of untold stories and intergenerational trauma. And Jafar Panahi, director of the Iranian French film It Was Just an Accident, which won the Palme d'Or in Cannes and is representing France at the Oscars. It's a moral thriller set in modern-day Iran where a banal mishap triggers a twisting tale of guilt, justice, and revenge. The film is a stark warning of the corrosive evil inside authoritarian regimes, and not just the one in Iran. Well, thank you all for joining us here. This is quite amazing. I think it's incredible that you guys are all here together for this talk, for this discussion. Maybe we could start with a complex but very simple question, which is, why did you all become directors? What drove you to choose this bizarre, complicated, and incredibly demanding profession? And maybe, Joachim, start with you. I mean, you actually, as a young person, you were a professional skateboarder, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, how did you become a director?
At least I had a sponsor, and I was a competitive skateboarder. Yeah, I think it's because I'm a third-generation filmmaker. Looking back, I would probably have been ashamed about saying that earlier in my career, but I think that my grandfather was a filmmaker. Affected me tremendously. My parents were both in movies. My father's a sound designer, my mother a director of documentaries primarily. I think it's the thing that I saw grown-ups play around and be in big collective groups, you know, in the rain, trying to do something beautiful, to make an image, be with actors. I kind of grew up on film sets, and I love those people. And I was a bit of a kind of restless young person. I didn't love school. I found my way into skateboarding, and there I started filming my friends. And I made these films when I was 15, 16 years old, where I would just film a whole summer and cut it together with music. And it wasn't only skating, it was also lives of people I knew, kind of recounting a summer every year. And slowly I just realized that's what I want to do with my life.
And Mascha, what was it like for you? How did you slip into this profession?
Yeah, so I was a little bit a troublemaker in school. So I left school before school could kick me out. And so I had no graduation. And I traveled some years, and then I realized I would love to do study. But there was no graduation, so I was looking for what can I study without a graduation, and the only thing was film.
The only thing left, the bottom of the barrel, so to speak.
Yeah, so, and of course, the good thing was I knew something about film because, like, as Joachim, my mom worked in film, so I knew about this life from film, or that there are jobs and about this film life, yeah. And then I studied first a screenplay writing, and then I wrote a couple of years, and then I decided that I want to love to do own films, and and then I studied directing at the Film Academy Baden-Württemberg.
Okay, so you did actually go sort of a traditional route in getting into the actually studying the education of it. But Oliver, you came from a completely different direction, right? You didn't study, you didn't have any of that sort of formal training. How did and why did you feel compelled to become a director?
I like the images. They are tasty. When I see pictures of myself being a child, I never look at the camera. I'm all the time playing. I'm all the time making films. In a way, I don't know, in a way I'm like escaping. I was like escaping reality, and images, and this inner world was warm, was tasty. So I think this is the taste of images, this flavor that I like to imagine. I like to translate it into images, and it's warm. It's just the good feeling. I don't know. So I do this. I surrender to this when I
surrendering to the images and to the warmth. And Jafar, for you, was it a more traditional way, or how did you end up coming to cinema in that way, and thinking I have to get behind the camera, I have to make these images?
For me, so I have been raised in a worker class, and for us, there was no entertainment. The only thing that we had was a library in our neighborhood. So I always was there. And I think I was 11 or 12. I was quite a chubby boy. And because of that, someone asked me if I want to act in a film. And I said, yeah, why not? So it was that time that they made Super 8 films. And I said, yes, sure. And I was on set for the first time. I have seen a camera. And I have realized that there is some person looking from this camera into the world. And I really liked that behind of the camera. I wanted to see the world behind the camera. And because I was quite naughty, I wasn't allowed to get there. And I really had this obsession with me to look at the world from the camera. Until I was 13 or 14 that I started working in the summer, and I saved my money, and I could buy a photography camera. That was a Zenit camera, and that was the starting point. I started taking photos, and I started also working with images, and I worked as a photographer, and then I studied at college cinema.
So it's interesting. The link I have with all of you is you were really misbehaved children. I think none of you were doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is maybe the best school for becoming a director. Jafar, we'll all talk about the films and your amazing films in a second. But I would like to start, maybe and have to start with your country, Iran, and what's happening there. I mean, you yourself have been in prison in Iran, imprisoned by the regime. The film you just made, it was just an accident, is a story of a former political prisoner who thinks he sees his or recognizes his former torturer on the street and decides to sort of take revenge. I'd just like to know, I mean, what's your reaction to what's happening in Iran right now? What's happening in the streets and the repression that's happening from the regime? What does it stir in you?
The reality is that this repression has always been there in Iran after the revolution, and everything that people demanded. So the answer to that, the response to that was repression, and it's nothing new. But the new thing is that this time that we see that people, this time, they attack people, they shoot at people with weapons. and within 48 hours, we have seen mass murder. And it is unbelievable what has happened. It's very difficult to understand. And the more they murder the people, the better you realize that this regime, the time with this regime is over. They are not able to take over the government. Then they fight against their own people with military weapon. And that blood pool that we see is, for me, I don't know what to say. I'm speechless. In my last film, I had a hope, kind of hope, that this circle of violence will end at some point, and after this regime, we will have some kind of peace. But with this kind of violence that we have experienced, my fear is that even after this regime, we don't forget this kind of violence, and it even worse happens.
It seems to reflect so much that's also in your movie. Can I ask, I mean, just on a personal level, because you have family, friends, in Iran, the internet has been down for days. Are you still in contact with people there? Can you still reach out to them? How do you find out about what's happening in your country at the moment?
When I realized that there is internet shutdown, we had a statement with Mr. Rasulov, and we said that with this blackout, it means that there will be a massacre there. And I think that, but I don't think that I could imagine how massacre this would be. Although this has happened before, but it's not comparable with this time. So this is quite different. It's dramatically. There are lots of days, and we don't have any contact with their relatives and friends, and we don't know how it's going on. And I think that as soon as we have the internet, we will see what happened there. In the past 24 hours, it seems that families, they can call abroad. So we can't call people in Iran, but for those who are in Iran, they can call abroad and say that we are doing great, but only for 1 minute. My son called me, called one of his our friends, and he told me that, tell my dad I'm doing well, but I haven't heard from my mother, who is old and who is sick. I haven't heard of my family, my brothers, sisters, my colleagues, and the ones who have been in prison with me. So I don't know what happened to them, and I don't know how long I will be in this situation.
Just inconceivable. I mean, of course, wish that everyone is healthy and happy, and that we somehow gets through this. It's maybe an awkward transition to talk about films now, but I mean, I wonder for all of you, even if you're not talking about politics specifically in your films, it's not the subject of your films. Do you consider, as filmmakers, filmmaking a political act? Is it in some way political, even if the subject is very personal and very, very close?
I think that just deciding what you are going to shoot, what is interesting for you, is a political act. You know, I'm interested on this. You know, and I think that there is nothing more political than the poetic. I think that cinema is really a tool that can heal the collective imaginary. I think it can elevate conscience, and after so there are a lot of different kind of filmmakers. There are ones who are more ideological, another more poetical. I don't know. I think that the purpose is to touch the human heart. If we do this, this is the most political act that we can do. So no matter the way, but this is the important thing, you know, to move. to provoke something inside.
And if, Sasha, can I ask you the same question? Because I think you are, your film, Sound of Falling, I mean, it carries through sort of all a century of German history, but it's told from the perspective of untold stories, from sort of a female perspective, young women and girls living on this small farm in Eastern Germany. And as I think I mentioned, it's a story of sort of intergenerational trauma. I mean, did you see the film as a political statement when you were making it? Did you think of the sort of the political implications of what you were doing?
Ich sag das mal auf Deutsch. Also am Anfang,
initially, we weren't concerned about the political aspect at all. What we really wanted to do was to look into the deepest depths of the people who lived there and to narrate from those depths. And while we were conducting the research, we realized that there are these concealed stories. There are hidden, untold stories of women, which tend to be neglected because they're in the margins of history. Many of those women could not read or write. And these are often stories that are so shot through with shame that people wouldn't even talk about them on their deathbed. Initially, we didn't intend to make a film told just from the female perspective. We looked into intergenerational trauma and the way in which trauma is passed down from generation to generation. However, at one point we realized that there is a striking distinction. There's a question as to how women were looked at for over a century, and women are looked at differently than men. And through the course of time, and we realized this as well because we were looking at this specific location where we shot the project. In the former GDR, in what used to be East Germany, the film became more and more political. While we were making it, that wasn't our initial intention, though.
It's really interesting because I think there are some connections, even though your films are very different, Sasha, with Joachim's film, because Sentimental Value, which is the story of this film director played by Stellan Skarsgård, who is trying to reconnect to his estranged daughters, and he only seems to have the medium of film to do it. And it is a sort of story of how history continues in ourselves and in our bodies. And you mentioned before that you have a connection to a sort of history of filmmakers. Your grandfather was a filmmaker. Your dad was in the film business. This film, Sentimental Value, is there autobiographical components of it? Is that sort of part of the spark that drove you to make the movie?
I think the film is about autobiography. It's about how people express themselves in indirect ways through the medium they choose. And that came into play in my life because in the context of what we're talking about now, Norway has been a country of peace since the Second World War and the 5-year occupation of the Nazis. My grandfather, who then became a filmmaker, was in work camp during the war because he was a very brave man and he was in the resistance. And it's kind of magical that he survived. And he started doing music as a jazz musician and then became a film director. And I've always thought in order to survive, going back to what Oliver is saying, I think he became a pacifist and quite political. I think he tried to find a way to express himself. In my life, I have now got 2 children, and the world is a very complicated place, many places in the world. And I'm asking myself, as I write this film with Eskil Vogt, even though we're making a story about a family at peace, they're trying to reconcile with history because they are realizing, as they're trying to forgive a difficult father, that he is very affected by being the first generation after the war and having a mother who has been traumatized by the Second World War. And I ask myself, how many generations does it take after a war or after a war trauma before it stops affecting people? And that's the question I ask when I look at my kids. Will I be the wall that changes things? Or will those events that are so far in the past seemingly still be alive in how they perceive? And there's a really strange dichotomy, and I also love that in your film, the ambivalence of memory. We owe the past to remember and to tell those stories, yet we also owe a new generation a sense of openness to the possibilities of a future that's not affected and tainted. And that ambivalence becomes then the individual's relation to history. And in a strange way, I see a lot of films this year that deals with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jafar, I mean, your film is deal with the history, the past trauma. It's dealing with the trauma of this moment, and you made the film after getting out of a prison. Was it at all inspired by that experience? And is it for you a film about vengeance or about the dangers of vengeance? Because the characters who want to carry out revenge find themselves trapped in a moral quandary of what to do, of how to find justice.
Before I want to answer this question, I want to say that I don't see myself as a politically engaged filmmaker because I have a certain definition for political films. For me, it's like more the parties, so about that ideology that divides people into good and bad people. I'm more a socially engaged filmmaker. In those films, there is no absolute good or bad human being, but also it's the situation that make this person good or bad. So I think that everyone, everything, every ideology should be respected, and they have to have their share, to have their own contribution. And this is what happened in my film. For example, about that torturer in this film, I have tried to give him also a certain share. What does it mean? It means that in the whole film, every character is they are all talking about one person who is absent. So he is in a box in a car. And because I wanted to be fair also towards to him, my decision was that in the end of the film, I gave him a shot for 13 minutes, medium shot, so that we can see him in the footage and we see the others come and go. And the camera doesn't turn toward those other people because this is his share. He should have also this opportunity to have a defense, what happened to him, so that he turned to this kind of human. So my films are mostly social films with a political subject or theme, or maybe I make a film about the war, but it is still a social film about the war and not about the politics. Yes, sure. Today in this world, in the countries that are under authoritarian regimes, even your clothes could be political. How you live, how you behave, everything can be political. But when we are talking about the films, it's not about politics anymore. It's about the society. It's about the humans.
It's interesting to mention the society because that's something that struck me very much with your film, Oliver, is that it is this subculture, the society, this underground rave culture that we started in this rave in the desert before it goes off. I won't give any spoilers, but it goes off into very different territory. What is it about that community, that sort of the underground rave culture, which I think I'll speak for a lot of people, I never knew even existed before I saw your movie, that was so emblematic for you that you wanted to explore it and you thought explored the themes and the issues that you wanted to explore in your movie?
Do you have 2 hours? I mean, a lot of things, but I will choose one that is related with what my colleagues were talking about. That is the wound. I think that we are, all of us, broken because different factors. Joachim, you were talking about the war. In my country, the hungry, also the civil war. I mean, and I think that the ravers. I mean, all of us were broken, but in a way we hide this wound. But ravers, they show it. their bodies is showing this. And I think it's really healthy. I think that we are on a moment that to stop the pain, you know, to stop this suffering, you know, that is provoked from people who are suffering. We suffer, so we provoke suffering. To stop this, it's really important to connect with the wound, to celebrate the wound, to dance the wound, to connect with our shadows, with our, I think, and it's something that since the beginning I made this community, I like it. I was more idealistic, you know, more like identify with an idealistic image of myself. And this process being with them and raving was more like, okay, let's look inside and let's dance this wound in order to stop the pain.
Yeah, I mean, can you speak a bit about that, dancing the wound, or because the music in your film is so powerful. It's the soundtrack partially is from the electronic artist Kanding Ray, who lives here in Berlin. When did you recognize that this kind of music, this sort of dark techno, if you want to call it that, would be the perfect mirror of the themes and the stories that you wanted to explore in the film?
It's curious to say it, dark techno.
I'm not an expert,
like
so
no, it's good, but it's called deep techno. Mm-hmm. And it's curious because it's through shadows that you arrive to the light at some point. And that was the idea with Sirat, you know, to take this tunnel, you know, that is sometimes, you know, to look inside sometimes is painful, you know. What you see, sometimes it's not, sometimes you see your grandfather, you know, and it's like, oh, come on, I don't want to see my grandfather, but you have to. And so, yeah, the idea was also to, at some point, to arrive to a kind of transcendence, to feel something more ethereal and yes, I hope that people could feel light at the end of this demanding film.
Is it the case with you, Mascha? Because your film is so visually striking as well, not just thematically. And there's something that really stands out to me is this single image, which I think you've used for the poster, which is this young girl from the 1910s or so in period costume looking straight at the camera, sort of almost accusingly at the audience. Where did you get that image, and how did that sort of inform the kind of story you wanted to tell? And I mean, do you feel compelled to tell that young girl's story?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At first, I have to say I find it so interesting what you said right now, Oliver, because when my co-author Louisa and me started the writing process of Sound of Falling, we were so curious about the fact that our bodies are more transparent than we are. So there is a line or a sentence in the film from Sound of Falling where Angelica, this girl in the 80s, say, that's so funny that our head is blushing when we are full of shame or when we try to hide something in this moment where we really don't want that anybody can see that we are nervous or something's going on. So our body is so much more transparent than we learned that we have to be, because it would be dangerous to show something like this. So, and I during research that I mentioned with these, we found so many hidden small half sentences in between the descriptions of idyllic childhoods, and they were written in this almost profound tone. But in between there were some things. So, for example, the mother has to do the laundry proper, or the kids are playing in the hay, or the father has to fill the pipe. And then in between there were some sentences like, a woman has to be made that they are not dangerous anymore for a man, or one maid said, I lived for nothing. So we could feel there are so many small hidden things, and we were interested in in these moments, because when you think at trauma, you often think about the war and things like this. But I think there are also little tiny moments that can happen during life that are so effective on you or so traumatizing. So, for example, a gaze, just a small gaze. It's the case for Lenka, one character who's living in the present on this farm, and this gaze that she received will form her complete life after this, and we wanted to create the stream of images that that you have the feeling that everyone who lived at this farm is thinking or dreaming at the same time, and it's about memory itself and how unreliable memory is and how erratic and fragmented and also associative. So this became the structure from the whole film. And it's about 1 century and how women looked at, and we wanted that these women can be able to look back in this film. So this is why Alma is, for example, looking directly into the camera. And we don't know what she sees, and it seems like the sound is answering. We don't see what is. So it seems like they are all connected. All the ancestors are connected through time and space with each other. And I wanted to create this feeling that they can see each other from almost, I don't know, a billion years later and look back on her life and realize, oh, I was alive, and some images are coming. So, and there was also a big inspiration about a photograph that we found on this lost place where we shot the film. And this photo, it's very unusual because it seems like to be a snapshot. 3 maids are standing in this house and looking directly into the camera. And this breaking the fourth wall came a huge inspiration for the film.
Talking about trauma and going through it with film. Do you, as directors, see filmmaking partially as personal therapy of like working through your own issues, your own traumas? Is it at all for you a personal thing to work through the traumas that you've experienced in your life?
I could go first. I don't know. I don't make films with a clear plan of why I'm doing it. I just don't know how to do anything else. And it's the weird thing. I don't know how you guys feel, but...
the same.
Yeah, but it's the passion for the form. I love movies. I grew up in the movie theaters. I think movies all the time. I'm sitting in situations and I'm looking at people. This is interesting. Behavioral stuff, psychological stuff, the mysteries of the others. That I still find engaging and interesting. And then being allowed to make characters that is not me or my co-writer or my cinematographer or the actors, actually. It's something in between us, something human that's an abstraction, but yet we can then start filling something in. It's just far enough removed from myself so that I don't feel that I have to be ashamed of what they're doing or protect them or anything. I can be three-dimensional. I can look at them and study them and collaborate around these characters. And I think that's what the kick is, to find images that show some sort of human experience, And at the end of it, we have this interesting experience of meeting, wonderful colleagues or audience members talking about the films. And if we're lucky, we revealed something beyond our control, something we didn't quite control, and the people talk back to us about it. And that can be quite cathartic, because then suddenly we're having a dialogue with people that we didn't expect. That's been the best experience, that Jafar and I can have a little chat about something, and suddenly we realize that we are learning something from each other through the movies, or the same with you two as well. So that's the kick. But I can't say that in a summation, oh, I showed the world this and now I'm great. I think life is messy still, and therefore I think we'll keep on going, right?
In my case, it's like you, Joachim. At the beginning, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just give myself to my intuition, And for example, now with my future project, I'm already feeling something in the body, as you say, Masha. You know, my body knows things that my head doesn't.
Yeah.
And so when I'm doing the project, I don't know it. But after, when I'm looking at the mirror of the audience, is when I am understanding that I was doing a therapeutical process. Totally, you know, and how, you know, these micro traumas, as you said, you know, a glance, you say a glance, but these micro abandons, you know, that we can have in life, you know, how this, and also the transgenerational wound that you explore in your film, this transpersonal wound that is so healthy, you know, that we make films about this. I didn't see your film already, Masha, but in my case, I'm totally sure that I'm healing something, making my work. I hope. in me, I'm saying.
Right.
I think that the filmmaker, when the filmmaker has pain, something moves, and then this is the kick that the filmmaker really needs to tell something, to show something, and show it to the others. And this pain could be very simple. For example, today in the morning, you were buying something and you have had a very simple conversation, and then something kicks you. And this will be, this shouldn't be an idea right now, but you will keep it in your mind unconsciously. Not that you have decided to film and make in that moment. So you are thinking about buying and take it back home. But this idea is in your head and you can't get rid of it. It's always with you. And this is something when I was in the prison. So they ask you questions in Iran if you are political prisoner, and it takes like 7-8 hours. In that moment, you sit close to the wall, and you have a pen and a paper, and someone asks you questions behind you, or talk to you, or write something, and you have a blindfold, and you have to push it a little bit upwards so that you can write your answers. And when you are doing that, you don't think about the questions and my answers. I only thought, who is this person behind me who made noise, so who I could hear him, because I could hear. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear. And I started asking myself, how old is he? What is he wearing? If I see him outside, do I recognize him? Do I realize this is this person, and how I would behave? On that moment, I never thought about making a film. I didn't know that at some point I want to make a film about this person. I was there, I only saw everything, I sensed everything, and I memorized the situation. And it was the thing that came out as a film later. And I think that whatever you do in your life, I think that it will be in your film. At some point, you don't know how, you can't decide how, but I think that this idea, this feeling, force you to tell about that idea, about that memory. So I think that our life is only about finding our subjects. So we can't help with that. We see, we observe, and we want to tell about that.
It's also fascinating what you all saying about how talking about your films also enriches somehow your own understanding of them. And mentioned at the top, all four of you are Oscar contenders. All four represent various countries: Spain, Norway, Germany, and France. For you, Jafar, in the Oscar race, you've also been doing this sort of crazy Oscar circuit where you talk to annoying journalists like me all the time, again and again, about your movies. What has that experience been like for you of traveling around the world and talking constantly about your movie with all these various people and presenting it again and again to different audiences?
Can I just answer?
No, please.
Because I think there are so different starting points for a film. Sometimes it's an image, sometimes it's something that you heard, or something it's a strong feeling inside of you where you have to find a language for. And sometimes it's, for example, in Sound of Falling, it was the case that I was so interested in this invisible things that you have no name for, things that are that you can't tell about. So, and sometimes then you need to try to find a form to turn it into a film. And but I think questions are a good starting point for a film, and not have the answers already. So, and during the process of writing, sometimes it can ich sag's mal auf Deutsch, es kann es wie ein therapeutischer Prozess werden, weil man sich zu Dingen hingezogen fühlt, die man erzählen möchte.
For example, you may feel yourself drawn to something that you want to narrate. You think that you know why, and then you realize actually there are topics that come bubbling up. Are there other issues that you knew nothing about? One thing I find particularly fascinating is that if you're talking about transgenerational trauma, about trauma being handed down through various generations, or about wounds, or about specific experiences that you have had, there's a whole universe concealed behind those topics. You try to find some access to that, but you don't really have answers. But sometimes the audience has answers and can see things in the film that you hadn't spotted yourself. They were there subconsciously.
Yeah, could I ask you then about what I said about the Oscar race? First, your experience of doing this whole sort of crazy circus and promoting your films for the Oscars, but also what's surprised you about how people have seen your films, or questions that they've asked, or things that maybe they've seen in your movie that you didn't realize were there until it was pointed out to you?
Yeah, well, a part of being a filmmaker, I call it kind of, you pay some promo tax, and it's a privilege. It means that you are being seen, and people care, and they ask you, and I don't take it lightly. I come from Norway. It's a tiny country. It's the suburbs of Europe, you know. So that we travel, we're very grateful. Let me start by saying that. But you also find a kind of a secondary story to the film you've made, and you don't know it when you made the film, because you've been in this tumble dryer of intuitive creativity, you know. I hadn't negotiated what my film is until I showed it at Cannes, and I get some applause, and you're standing there very vulnerable and nervous, and people are writing about it, people are talking to you about it, and slowly you start understanding how you communicate about your film. And I feel by now we probably all kind of peaked a bit. We have done our story now, so either we now have the choice of starting to invent some bullshit secondary, you know, and more entertaining stuff to say, or we find new ways of doing it. But once in a while you meet people still that connect you to the core of what the film came from. And that's always very exciting. Someone will share a personal anecdote about something relating to your film. And that also brings you on. You know, we are still probably right now thinking about the next one. So I'm trying to think that this is also creatively stimulating, even though it takes a lot of travel and a lot of talk. And there's, I don't think it's only me being from the sort of Norway, who are a little bit shyer sometimes than other cultures, that you feel this kind of shame about the attention you're getting. It has kind of a flip side a little bit, but I'm trying to avoid it and think like, hey, here we are. And if we can not only show our film, but also be a part of a bigger presentation of a group of films like we're experiencing. I've met all of you before. We've kind of been on the road together. And I'm seeing you're all doing well. And that, kind of knowing that the award aspect of it, of course, we feel very honored. But that at the end of the day, we're privileged enough to be a group of films that a lot of people are now seeing and discussing. It's a little bit like Rolling Stones versus Beatles. I like both, you know, but you know through the competition aspect that people will listen to it meticulously and get engaged, and that buy effect, I think, is okay. I take that as a compliment, you know.
I think it's luxury. It's a privilege to share your films at this level worldwide, and in Japan, and it's not the same thing that in Mexico. So you're having new interpretations, or people are having different experiences with your films, and we understand how a film transcends us. That how art has to transcend the author, and the level of meanings are infinite sometimes, you know, and that's powerful. And I'm having fun meeting great people, and look now. I mean, this is beautiful. I mean, artists, I think we are an expression of our time. We are an expression of our societies, and you know, I'm seeing a lot of. I'm recognizing myself in you, and I think it's a good opportunity. I'm come from really the underground. It's my fourth film. It's the first time I can share it in that level, the film, so I'm really grateful.
And Jafar, do you appreciate talking about your film all the time? You spent 20 years not talking about films.
So the reality is watching the films in movie theaters is one of the most enjoying things that you can do. It's so joyful. Unfortunately, I haven't seen your films, but I have seen the film Sirat, I have seen, and The Sound of Falling, I have seen those films, and I really enjoyed that. And so it was so pity for me that I have seen those alone, because I need subtitles and Persian subtitles, and I was alone. And I think that the joy of seeing that with the audience would be very different, and unfortunately it didn't happen. But after 17 years, I could see my own film with the audience in Cannes, and this was the first time after 17 years, because so my films were never screened in Iran, so you couldn't go to movie theaters and see those films, and I haven't been outside of Iran, and because of that I couldn't realize. I think that for a filmmaker, for a director, watching the film with the audience is quite important, because you see your strength and your weakness, and you realize at which point you could connect to your audience, how it worked for you or how not, or sometimes it happens that you find something in the audience that you have never thought about. In the 5 continents that I have been watching the film with my audience, sometimes I realize that in some countries they laugh more. For example, in the United States or Canada, they laugh more, or in the Asia, they laugh less. Or sometimes they laugh so hard that I can't understand why they laugh here. So I couldn't realize that. For example, in that scene that the wife and the child of that torturer is at hospital, and people laugh, and I asked, so it's not funny, why they laugh? So, and they said it's quite funny. So they wanted to kill this person, and now they are helping his wife and child. So what's happening here? And I think that I don't understand why it turns to laughter in the movie theater. So another thing that I want to say is that during the 12-day war in Iran, when the Evin prison was fired with the bombs, there was somewhere that I have been also there, and the prisoners get out of that area, and it was the section 4 that I also have been in. And there is some areas which is called 209, and the prisoners there, they got outside. And that section 209 was the area that the torturer were there. And when the prisoners get outside and when they see the torturer that they are there, before they try to flow away, they help the torturers to get outside of that area which was bombed. And is it funny? I mean, they have tortured them, and they have thought about revenge when they see them outside. But this is again that humanism that is the thing, is the subject of the socially engaged cinemas. And I think that it is something different, quite different, to watch the movie in the movie theaters, and it is quite different from seeing a film alone.
Yeah, no, I thought your film was incredibly funny, and also that scene in the hospital, particularly that they go out and buy pastries because that's traditional, and even though it's the wife of their perhaps torturer. You mentioned about cinema and about watching the films in cinemas, and I think we're all big cinema fans here, but I have to ask, I mean, Joachim, in your film, your director, Gustav Borg, initially tries to make a European movie, but his daughter, who's an actress, doesn't want to be in the film, so he hooks up with a Hollywood star, played by Hollywood star, Elle Fanning, and then gets a deal with Netflix to do the film. Can I ask, maybe all of you, if Netflix came calling, or one of the big studios, and said, we'll give you a lot of money to make your next movie, but you have to obey our rules. No final cut. Would you guys do it? I mean, would you?
Netflix. What was it? Netflix. Netflix. Did you hear it?
I heard it.
Netflix.
I've always had final cut. That's how I make movies. That's not a discussion. But there are studios that work very differently. I mean, studios are many different things. For me, theatrical is important. I shoot on 35. I love the big screen. It's the art form that I've committed my life to, in a way, is an art form that has to do with a particular type of empathy and intimacy, which you get only in the theater. I mean, yes, I saw Tarkovsky on a VHS tape when I was a kid, and I that's remarkable, and we'll always have those formats. But the possibility, and I see it with young kids, to go to the cinema and be in a dark room, and there are no other screens around, and you focus on these other human beings. And I feel that all of us at this table, and many of our colleagues in this award season, have made humanist films. They are about using the possibility of empathy and the mystery of what we understand in the film and what we shouldn't understand, because there's space for the audience to interpret, which is also equally important. And to have that focus in the theater, to me, is very important. Yeah, in my film, I'm making kind of a joke that the man that, Gustav Borg, that the wonderful Stellan Skarsgård plays, the director that hasn't made a film for 15 years, is kind of puzzled that there might be a discussion of not showing it in the theater. I think Netflix has made a lot of good movies. They were supporting a lot of great filmmakers. I just wish they showed them in the theaters. That's it.
For me, it's a red line. It's necessary to preserve these temples that are theaters, where we were making a social ritual. It's really complex what is happening between an image and us. We were talking about the body, how the human metabolism, feels images, and how the images can make something in your body. And this subtle relation that we have, even if there is black and we think we are alone in front of the images, we are in a sacred way, like sharing things with the people. It's not the same. We know as a filmmakers, our films, the same film, possibly the same kind of people, but depending on the day, depending on the moon, depending on, the projection is different, the energy is different. This is powerful, and at the same time, I think that the chronology of cinema has to be respected. It's how also we can finance our films, and how we can have more independence. I'm happy to be a European filmmaker because I don't trust much sometimes in the States, but I trust more in the States than in the, how do you say, factories or empresas. I don't know how to say it. So yes. We have an expression in Spanish is hambre para hoy, no, pan para hoy, hambre para mañana. In English, it's like bread for today, hungry for tomorrow. That means, okay, if now you are, you take the easy path, you will be hungry tomorrow. You know, I think we have to think on the future. We have to have coherence and I don't know. We have to suspect about the easy path sometimes, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I assume for all of you, AI, artificial intelligence, is also a red line. Or can any of you imagine using computers or that type of computers, artificial intelligence, to make your films? Do you think that will play a role in your own filmmaking in the future?
I don't know. So, I mean, hopefully not. But on the other hand, I have to say I'm also very curious about some things. So I love to fantasize sometimes dystopic moments because I'm just curious in which, I mean, we are now in the middle of something and we will just I don't know 50 years know which epoch is this right now. So we don't know yet. And so it's not for me that I'm thinking in this, but I don't think I have any red lines in me because I just want to. I just don't know yet. So what's in the future or what is there? But of course, I hope that we can dass wir einfach die Filme machen können.
I really hope that we're able to make the films that we really want to make, that come from within us.
Well, I mean, we're sort of coming to the end now, but if I could take it back to politics, everything eventually comes back to politics. We talked a little bit about sort of the horrible things that are happening around the world and the traumas past and present. I wonder for all of you, as filmmakers, as directors, where do you find the courage to try to meet the moment, to try and make movies that are important and say something to what's happening in our world right now? Where does that courage come from? Because I certainly don't have it.
We are kidnapped by the films. I think we don't decide. We give our bodies not to the science, we give it to the art. And at some point I don't know. As I said, I mean, we get drunk, and through us, through our bodies, the society is expressing something. You know, we are reflecting something of our time. In my case, also the courage, I found it thinking that even failure, even crisis can be. I can grow, can make me grow. So in a way, obviously I have fears. I think that's also we are learning also to deal with fears. That's the point, you know. Obviously we feel and we accept to be fragile and vulnerable more and more, and we understand that it's part of the creative process, you know. I will have to jump to the abyss, but you jump at the end, you know, and something happened when you surrender, you know, when you give yourself to the intuition, you know, it's like the film is like using you in a way.
And maybe I can end with you, Jafar, because I think we'd all agree that the courage that you've shown is phenomenal. You've made films under unbelievable conditions. Can cinema help the situation, like the situation in Iran? What can that do? And if it isn't cinema, what can we do for those of us outside Iran? How can we help the people of your country?
How
Every time that we talk about the courage, I am a little bit concerned because I think that I don't have that courage. You know, I can only make films. It is my job, and if I feel pain about something, I make films about it. It's not about the courage. I only go the way that I believe in, and I make my own film. That's the only thing that I do. Maybe this is the courage that I don't let others decide over me, that I do whatever I believe in and do whatever I want to do. And I think the rest is not the courage. It's my need to make films. And I think that whenever I make a film, and every other filmmaker, they want to have the good feeling for themselves. They want to believe that they have done the thing that they wanted to. About your last question about the Netflix, so I don't think that I want to have any producer, because whenever I want to make a film, so because of two conditions, because of the situation in Iran, and you don't know if you can move forward, and if you have a producer, so you are obliged to do that, and you never know if it works well. And when we are on set, I tell everyone, when I'm done with the editing, if I'm not happy with that, I don't let this film get distributed, and that's the reason why I take over the costs and I don't take any money from nowhere, because I need to decide in the end to seal my film. I know that we are out of time, but I want to tell you something. I was a student and I wanted to make a film, and I had every equipment that you can think, because I wanted to make it for the television. And I made the film, I did the shooting, I started editing, and after that I realized, wow, this film is quite horrible. So, you know, everything was okay, technically everything was okay, but there was no emotion in that. I had the feeling that I can't seal this film with my signature. No one knew me at that time. No one, really, no one. I was a simple student, and we worked with negative films that time. I went to the laboratory and I saw all the negatives. I destroyed them so that no one can see this film and work on it. And that's why I say it's important that you can express yourself, be yourself. And being yourself, if it means courage, okay, that's another story. But if you say you are very brave and you can change the world, I don't think that I am that person.
Well, I would politely disagree, but that's great. But thank you all for being here, for having this discussion. I don't know if I'm optimistic about the future of our world, but I'm definitely, after seeing your movies and talking to you, very optimistic about the future of European cinema. So thank you all for joining me. And thank you all for joining us here for the European Cinema Roundtable, collaboration between DW, The Hollywood Reporter, and the European Film Academy. I'd like to again just thank all my participants. Thank Joachim Trier, Oliver Laxe, Mascha Schilinski, and Jafar Panahi. Please seek out their movies, see them in festivals, in theaters, wherever you can. These are really movies that matter. They're films that meet the moment. They may not have all the answers, but as Mascha said, at least they're asking the right questions. Thank you very much, and I'll see you at the movies.